And now it's Nina G.
All right, thank you. And it is great to have Mark being the lead in here. So I really appreciate being part of this. And so the thing is that I am on my so I am the San Francisco Bay Area's only female stuttering stand-up comic, and I am on my way to a show now. I actually pulled over by San Quentin, so I'm right by the prison. So hopefully I don't get anyone trying to escape. Hopefully I come in well, all of that stuff. So let me know if I don't. And the way that I thought I would do this, I'm not going to do any comedy or anything like that. I thought I could just kind of do a Q&A. A lot of people are interested about comedy. It's been in the news lately. With the Will Smith thing and all of that. So I welcome any questions, but I thought I would introduce kind of like how I got into comedy in the first place. And the way that happened was, I love it. Like I've written 3 books. The most recent one is Bay Area stand-up comedy, a humorous history. And I wrote that because comedy has been the thing that I've loved my entire life. When other girls had crushes on New Kids on the Block, because I'm from the 80s and the 90s, I had crushes on stand-up comics. Like that, it was like comics were my rock and roll stars. And so for me, loving it, I eventually wanted to do it. And this is the story that I tell in my books, Stutter Interrupted, that I wanted to be a comic from the time I was 11 years old because because of the stutter, it never happened, in spite of writing jokes and in spite of calling up open mics and trying to trace it and researching it, all of that. My love for comedy eventually went more academic. So anytime that I had to write a paper in school, I would write about comedy. So the love of comedy never changed, but my participation in it did. And so I never got up on stage during all that time. In 2009, I went to a conference for people who stutter. And I went there very much as like, oh, this will help me kind of professionally. I didn't think it would change me personally, but the change was personal. When I was there, I realized how much I had let my stuttering impact me in all kinds of ways. It's the title of my book is Stutter Interrupted. And that is because, we're interrupted all the time. I don't have to tell any of you that. But what I found out was that I was interrupting myself, that I didn't realize how much I wasn't making my needs met to the people in my life, especially my boyfriend at the time, how I wasn't living up to the dreams that I wanted. And being a woman in stuttering, and if Pam's on this, I think I saw her, she did a whole podcast on this, that our situation is really unique in that we're a minority within a minority. But also what I realized at that conference is, as a woman, I was socialized to make myself small, to not take up that space. And as a person who stutters, like that just got reinforced 10 times over. So, it's the iceberg that Sheehan has, which I'm sure many people here have seen. It's that guilt. Like, I felt guilt about other people sitting through my stutter, and that really fit into how I was raised as an Italian American woman, that you don't make other people uncomfortable. And so that kept me quiet in situations that I could have been more vocal. Also, I realized how it impacted me in my relationships, that I was kind of acquiescing to my partner at the time. And when I came back from the conference, I started to make changes in my life, because I was like, I'm going to try to reclaim some of that space, and some of that space communication wise, but also some of that space for the things that I've always wanted to do. So I started to make those changes. Within 6 months, I broke up with my then boyfriend, 10 years. And 2 months after that, I started to stand-up comedy, because I was like, what is the other thing I've always wanted to do, but my stutter got in the way. And I really want to emphasize here, my stutter did not get in my way. How I thought about my stutter got in my way. And that is the thing, is that we can reframe Sheehan's iceberg in a way that makes sense for us. And it doesn't have to be shame. It doesn't have to be guilt. It doesn't have to be isolation. Obviously, we have 23 people on here. It does not have to be isolation. And if Tom's around, he will make sure that it's not isolation. And the hopelessness. It doesn't have to be those things, that you can transform how you think about your stutter. And each of us has a role. I mean, I have my ideas about that. And my new iceberg after the conference had community, it had courage, it had forgiveness, it had pride, it had acceptance. And I think that is one way that we could go. But each of us kind of has like the iceberg we have and the iceberg that we want to have. And I really encourage you all to find a way to understand your stuttering in a way that makes sense for you. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and open it up. It's great to see friends who I haven't seen in a while. Love you guys. And I'll just open it up. So does anybody have any questions? And you can text them, you can put them in the chat, or you can ask.
You have a question, Nina, from Kunal.
Hey Nina, so listen, I mean, I think like, you challenge yourself every like all the time, kind of getting up there. And so just love to hear, like, is there anything that you feel like you're struggling with, like these days or just recently still, just as it relates to your overall, journey?
That is interesting, because I was just talking about that with my friend at dinner. He's actually here. I'll show you. That is my best friend Dave, who we are on the way to a gig. He put on his heavy metal music, so he is listening to that because he's heard this all kinds of times. Anyway, we were talking about, okay, so I shared a video yesterday on Instagram, because right now all the comics are getting beat up on stage. And so I have a video clip where a guy ran up on stage, and it looks a lot more dramatic. Yes, it is Mean Dave. Thank you, Pam. So I have a clip, and it looks more dramatic than it actually is. But I was up on stage, and a guy ran up, tried to get the mic. And this was like during it was when like things started to loosen up around COVID. But I was just like, because I bring my own mic and I use my own mic so that I breathe my own germs and not someone else's. And I was like, oh, he's gonna get COVID all over my mic. I was more concerned about that than anything else. And so I yelled at the guy and I went off on him. I was like, F you, get the F off my stage. I came on very, very strong. Also, he looks like a lot of men in my family, so it triggered me. And so I posted that, and it was like a 10-second clip. And I started to get some haters. Like in a half hour, it got almost up to a 1,000 views, which, like, my experience, that's not good. Like, that is going to be people who are the trolls. And so I got a couple of men. Of course, it was, sorry guys, but it was men. There's a lot of misogyny out there, especially when you're a female comic, and especially one who has something that they may see as a weakness. And so I've gotten trolled so much. Like when I did the inauguration, I had people contacting me, telling me I looked like a beached whale and calling me all kinds of awful words. And these are like to my email. And so I am no stranger to it, but I took the video down and I reposted it so only my friends could see. But like, that is just one example. It's like, I could have kept it up there. I could have taken the comments off. I could have done it, but I didn't want to deal with it. And I think sometimes like, is that something that I should have done? I don't know. It's like, where's your energy? And it's like, I know you all understand this, because like there are just some nights where it's like, I don't want to be the one ordering the pepperoni pizza, and can I just have a mulligan on this and have someone else do it, because I'm not in the mood. And so I think there are those times when it's like, you don't have to take everything on. Oh, and actually, this is another one. I actually just booked my first ever comedy club weekend date where I'm hosting. I've been doing comedy now for 12 years, and for someone to do it this late in their career is really weird. And guess why, everybody? You all know the answer. I stutter, and I didn't want to host because I'm not great at it. Thank you, Mark. And like, first of all, I hate, like, I have a joke that I don't fake my stuttering, and I don't fake my orgasms. That is because I don't fake anything, and I hate faking the excitement of like, oh, here's somebody who's been a jerk to me for 3 years, but everybody, let's let them hear it for blah, blah, blah. So I've been reluctant to host, but Eddie Pepitone, and someone say something, if you know Eddie, he is just an amazing comic, really dark. He is an Italian guy from Staten Island, much like our beloved Tony. And he is, and he's super dark, and it's so great. And he's one of my favorite comics. And so this guy over here, Dave, contacted the booker, and oh my God, the honky tonk cake. Oh, damn, it's so great. I will talk about that afterwards. There's so much to talk about there. But Dave was like, hey, dude who works at this booking thing for the comedy club. What if Nina hosts and I feature? They already had a feature. And so Dave's like, you should contact him and let him know that you are available to host. So I did. And so that is a new thing for me, and I am really scared. I hate, like, I was like, okay, the feature is Chad Opitz. So those are words I don't stutter on. And the headliner is Eddie Pepitone. I think I'll be okay there too. And although Eddie seems pretty chill about his name, some performers are like, you have to get everything right, or I don't want you to do it. So this just seems like the best possible way for me to enter into this. But after 12 years, that's all new ground. So, fearless as you think I am to tell jokes, I am fearless in that way as long as I have control. I don't have control over names and hosting and, all of that stuff. So that is something that I don't like. Thank you. It will not be live streamed. You'll have to come to Alameda Comedy Club on June 17th, 18th, and join us. So, other questions? Oh, Honky Tonk Hank, we got to talk about that. Pam, do you want to share your recollection of it? Because it's so nice that someone else has a shared weird memory. Because most of my memories that are weird are just my own. But when you stutter with someone else, there's always room for shared weird memories.
Yeah, and I don't want to take up a lot of your time, but this was at the Fort Worth conference. I don't remember what year it was, but you did a show, Nina. There, we found some dive bar, and you did a show where I recall Stephen Kaufman introduced you. At the end of the show,
and just let me say one thing here, and that is no one remembers any of my jokes. They remember everything Steve said, and I'm very angry and bitter about that still. Pam.
Yeah, that was, I remember that as well. But after the show, people were hanging out at the bars and whatnot at the bar, and Nina and I were chatting at the bar. And this very drunk guy, whose name is not Hank, but Nina and I named him Honky Tonk Hank, really drunk, gross looking. I mean, what you would think of like as a typical Texas redneck, missing teeth and stuff like that. He came up to Nina and I. We were just making some small talk, and then he says, what would it be like to French kiss a stutterer? So it was just like, so like we were like shocked, and I think Nina, you had like a comeback to that, right?
I don't remember what the comeback was, but I do remember earlier that night, because like you have to remember, we had 150 stutterers just kind of come into this bar that had like nothing going on except for like five Honky Tonk Hanks there, and so this guy, this in particular Hank guy, he started talking to me prior, and before the show I was like, okay, this is one of those guys that you have to engage with him now so he doesn't engage during the show. So I'm talking to him, and then Pam walks up, and she has a button on that says something about stuttering, and she says maybe her name or something, and then Hank does this, and then Pam was like, "That's part of the problem." Oh my God! But then by the end of the night, he wanted to make out with us. So it just shows you how transformational attitudes can be, from going from laughing at us to making out with us. And that is also where we need that kind of the visibility. Where do people see stuttering? It is not presented as something like, oh, maybe I want to make out with this person. It's often in ways that are really kind of disempowering, and that's where I really want to challenge our media to do a better representation of us, and that's what I hope I can do a teeny bit in comedy. But the representations in stuttering still kind of suck, and so I'd like to see that changed, and I think we might get more offers then too. So
I also think he closed up with does French kissing with a stutterer take longer? That was
I
like
think his
just
exact
so
quote
weird.
was, I bet French kissing one of you stutters will be all night long. I'm okay. Yeah, no, we're not gonna test that theorem. So
during your performances, Nina, now we all know that when somebody verbally bullies us, that if we try to respond and we stutter, well, they just laugh more, and everybody laughs more. How do you approach that if you're having one of those high frequency stuttering nights and someone engages you when you're on the stage? You go to reply, you start blocking. There's even more laughter. How do you deal with that?
I kind of put this stuttering up front, and I think it desensitizes them. So I feel like it takes 2 or 3 minutes for them to get accustomed to it, and I name it in the beginning. I do my joke about faking, because the faking part, if people think that I'm faking it, it's like, and I always say you can't fake it this good. I'd be the Meryl Streep of stuttering if that was the case. So it gets
Awesome.
on my nerves. Yeah,
Awesome.
but
Great answer.
then if somebody does interact, you look like a really big jerk if you heckle a stuttering woman. So I don't get many heckles, but when I do, because we are heckled all the time, right? Like we are heckled
sure,
at Starbucks, like every single day. And so I kind of feel like in comedy, I kind of like getting heckled because I got a lot of pent up aggression. I have a lot of exercise. I kind of feel like it's those people who have a black belt in karate and they walk down the street hoping someone beats them up so that then they can just go at them. So that's kind of how I feel about stuttering and heckling. Like, yeah, just try me.
Well, Nina, thank you for spending this time with us. Nina's on her way to a show, and she's in her car. She pulled over just to talk to us tonight because she thinks that she feels that it's so important to be part of our community. And I don't think I've ever heard her say no to any time anyone's asked her to speak at a stuttering event. Thank you for being you, Nina. You're awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Tom's asked me a lot. So he knows. So I always appreciate being involved. And I really appreciate all of you guys. You can find me at ninagcomedian.com. I believe there's links there to my Instagram and to the Facebook. If anybody has any questions, please let me know.